Ranking the top 36 receivers in Dynasty Fantasy Football proactively. That's the key word here, proactive. Because if you're not proactive in how you play Dynasty, you're just setting yourself up to fail. You fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. This process is meant to be anticipatory. You have to take into account what very well looks like could happen. We don't know for sure what it might be, but that's what this game is, guys. That's how you play Dynasty. Or else you're just putting yourself in a position to fall behind a potential buy window, and then you end up being so overreactive and pay an extortionate price for a potential player. Or you just miss the boat because of pride or whatever might stand in the way. You miss the boat to potentially sell a player because you've waited too long. That's what we are trying to avoid here with how we rank players, how we play Dynasty. And as I did in my quarterback rankings video, this is a very intangible process. I know, as uncomfortable, ambiguous as that word is, intangible thought exercise that's rooted ultimately in four principles, the four P's, as I did in my quarterback rankings: production versus projection, perspective versus perception. We see what they might have put on the field in 2023, but that doesn't matter. We're getting into 2024 and beyond. All we can do is project, anticipate. And with tiers, of course, we try to make sense the perspective of who's around in their respective cohorts, the other options in the league, right? And then ultimately perception. Perception is reality. As much as we like to or not like to believe that, perception dictates how highly these players are thought of, certain narratives, and obviously rookies especially are very sexy, and I've included some accordingly in this rankings video. Not all, but several. With that being said, guys, let's jump into this. We're on the road to 100 subs. You crushed the road to 50. We're right around the corner. 100, 100. We're aiming for January 10th, 0 a.m., January 10th by midnight. Let's get into this. Tier 1. Who's in Tier 1? I think that's pretty clear at this point. Although it might have been clear who the two are. But guys, I got three. I'm kind of breaking the glass ceiling of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase alone. I got CeeDee Lamb in here. And he's well deserving of this. That's the reality. Among first or second place in all the categories we care about, all the categories that ultimately translate to fantasy points on our rosters. CeeDee Lamb, he's got the opportunity that we talk about the 4Ps again, reintroducing them. That's the theme of Tier 1. They check off all the 4Ps at such a high level. The production's been there. Maybe not for the first two due to some injuries this year, but we know it's going to be there. Projection, hence making that call. Not a bold call at all. Perspective, they're in their own relative tiers, and the perception, the narrative is so strong with these guys, unlike anyone else in the league, frankly. But what do you guys think of this tier? I think it's pretty clear that these are the three at the moment. Who else is going to join them? Who could join them? That's another argument. And as we get on to Tier 2, really this becomes a little bit more crowded, a jumbled tier that you still feel really good about. I've got six guys in Tier 2. Starting, well, I got Marvin Harrison Jr. Maserati Marv, as Gus Johnson loves to say. He's incredible. You hear I'm fatiguing you all by talking about him at this point. I know he's just been an unbelievable player in college at The Ohio State University. Wide receiver U, just such a safe prospect, but still such a high ceiling. And that's what's beautiful about it. And that's why I have him at the top of this tier too. Could very well early into next year, I could see him vaulting up due to the perception and the production potentially. I could see him vaulting up into the Tier 1 of receivers, guys. But wide receiver 4 is absolutely no joke of a ranking for Marv. I think I just have to honor him with that ranking accordingly. And then moving on in this tier, look, we got the Browns. Not related. We're talking Amon-Ra, not his brother Equanimous. We're talking Amon-Ra and A.J. Brown here. Although St. Brown, let me recognize Saint for Amon-Ra there. But first going off with Amon-Ra and A.J., we know they're in great situations with the quarterbacks, the general offenses, and the opportunity, the production is there, and it's going to continue to be there. I think the production is really going to be there for Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers next year. We really missed out on, I think, what would have been beautiful, beautiful, just music, a symphony of this Jets offense with a passing attack, with a Breece Hall, really turning it on for large parts, more sustained parts of the season, had there been an Aaron Rodgers throwing it to him. But look, Garrett Wilson, my guy, he suffered so much, and he deserves what's coming to him. Just anything that's different from what we've seen through his first 2 seasons, but he leads among the leaders again in targets. He is that passing attack, and that's not really changing anytime soon. Who might join him? The Jets, if they so choose to pick a receiver in Malik Neighbors, potentially in the top 10. I don't think that's where the Jets are going to go. But even if they do, look, Malik Neighbors, he's bound to be in that top 4 to 8 or 9 range. He's that special of a player. Talked about him before in rookie rankings, rookie mocks, wide receiver narrative notebook series. Malik Neighbors, guys, he has shades of Jamar Chase. He is unbelievable. He's an explosive athlete. Explosive athletes like, a Tyreek Hill, a Deebo Samuel. That explosiveness translates to big yard, big chunk plays, touchdown, lightning in a bottle. That's what we want on our fantasy football teams, and that's what Malik Neighbors provides. Some, and I think I'll be in the camp to say, robbed of the Biletnikoff. I really believe that. But Marv, he won it based off of maybe the pedigree, maybe the last 2 seasons of production, but that's neither here nor there. Who is here in tier 2? Puka Nacua, man. Boy, did I get lucky, get fortunate with picking him up in my home league, which really helped me win a fantasy title in year 3. But Puka Nacua, year 1, unbelievable. Talk about a guy that got peppered with targets. Pretty much Cooper Kupp, who? I mean, nowhere to be really seen. Puka Nacua, man, commanding such a large chunk, a large share of this offense, really carving out a role with Sean McVay, Stafford, and the Rams that is going to be there for years and years to come, it looks like. Puka Nacua, just a monster. Monster of a player. But that's tier 2, guys. Let me know. Is it too wide? Too narrow? Just right? Who do you got in tier 2? Let me know in the comments. But moving on to tier 3. Tier 3, this is where we shrink the tier a little bit. Not by a lot, but tier 3, I got 5 guys in tier 3. Leading off with the explosive man himself. Although maybe this is a tough joke to make. He just had a fire in his house. Hope everything's all right with Tyreek Hill. But Tyreek Hill, man, he is just a cyborg, seemingly. Age is just nothing but a number with Tyreek, man. Cheetah, as they call him. He is unbelievable. He's got as high of a high spike, week-to-week opportunity production as anybody, right? And that's such a valuable, invaluable piece to have on any roster, especially if you're obviously trying to contend. But even if you have and had a rough season this year, you're still going to be able to potentially rebuild without Tyreek Hill, but really expedite your rebuild by selling a guy like Tyreek Hill because he holds his weight in gold, man, with the explosiveness, the production in the Miami offense. Nothing is really changing anytime soon. It's really just looking like several more years of this type of production with Tyreek, man. Another rookie number 3 in this rankings, Rome Odunze, man. He is a monster with Washington. I'm thrilled to see, really, just after we're recording and releasing this video, we're going to see the natty Washington, Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, some other guys, the triumvirate of Washington receivers going up against Will Johnson, Michigan, a huge, huge game, obviously. Everything's on the line, but Rome Odunze, regardless really of what might happen in that game, he has shown unbelievable talent and production. And he's on pace to be a top 10 to 12 pick, top third of the first round. And that's just gold. That is beautiful for our dynasty rosters and for just a profile in general, the type of player that you want on your fantasy team. And look, he has maybe fallen a bit to the wayside relative in this class of the talents generational guy like a Marvin Harrison. I've even said, and I've ranked accordingly, Malik Neighbors in the same conversation, in the same tier as a Marvin Harrison Jr. Rome Odunze, he's really right on that cusp, guys. One of the most respected voices in scouting and the NFL draft industry, Daniel Jeremiah, his early rankings, he's gone out as far as to say, Marv, Rome Odunze, same exact grade. If that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what does. You got Mad Mel Kiper. Shout out Pat McAfee show, but you got Mel Kiper saying he reminds him of Jamar Chase. Just unbelievable. Another comparison, though, people say that Rome Odunze is actually a jumbo Chris Olave, who just so happens to be right next to him as the wide receiver 12, quote unquote, in my rankings here. But Chris Olave, man, he, like Garrett Wilson, some tough situations, but man, they are the bona fide wide receiver ones in their offenses. And given the age, given how you believe, you have to be of the mindset, look, it's only going to get better with the quarterback situation. It could only get better in terms of the offense and who might be around him, who might be calling the plays, who might be throwing to him, just everything in general. The sky is not falling with Chris Olave. I really think can only rise. And as sort of the case with, look, Brandon Ayuk. Maybe this is a bit of a shocker to some. But Brandon Ayuk, man, we have to wake up to his spot in this 49ers offense, his unbelievable efficiency and explosive after the catch, leads the league in yards per catch, per reception, per target, whatever terminology you want to use. The volume isn't necessarily crazy. Not maybe in the top 5 to 10 in terms of raw targets. Obviously, that's tough given who's in that 49ers offense. But he makes the most of his opportunities. And he's got Brock Purdy, a top 12 to 15 dynasty quarterback, a good quarterback who executes what he needs to within that offense, giving him looks. Just Brandon Ayuk, man, he deserves this tier 3 ranking, in my view, as does Jalen Waddle, who's kind of hanging on. He just gets a little bit too injured. And with Tyreek, it's a little bit of a crowded room. But look, Mike McDaniel, that Dolphins offense, we know it's explosive. We know we can trust Tua relatively, respectively. And Jalen Waddle, we're just waiting for kind of a return to the explosiveness he showed even in his first season. But he, 25 some odd years old, he's attached to a great situation. He's going to get opportunities. And I think I still need to recognize him in tier 3 here accordingly. But let me know what you guys really think of Jalen Waddle, because that's kind of a hot topic, I think. Does he have real value, or is it somewhat inflated? But look, that's just the name of the game with these receiver rankings. And I think as we get past Jalen Waddle into tier 4 and beyond, guys, this is where it really gets just so jumbled and speaks to the sheer fact that there are so many good receivers in the NFL. And there's going to be some more and more in a historic receiver class that completely just change the landscape, disrupt the wide receiver landscape in some respects, but just add to it, ultimately, more options for us. The more the merrier, right? But we have a large tier 4, starting with, look, DJ Moore. Went out there, career year, still not that old, guys. Career year with Justin Fields, and looking like it very well might be him and Justin for years to come. But even if it isn't, he potentially gets a Caleb Williams or a Drake May. I'm still of the mindset I would predict the Bears do lean for a rookie quarterback. But even if they do, I think, look, going to be the clear wide receiver one option for the quarterback. It doesn't really matter out of Justin Fields versus a rookie quarterback who's throwing to him. I'm of that mindset because it's either going to be one of two incredible, incredible quarterback prospects. But DJ Moore, I feel like he gets overlooked, and we haven't appreciated him really for what he offers and what he's worth to our rosters, what he's shown, and what he just offers from now moving forward. DJ Moore, guys, top of this tier. Devontae Smith following him. Look, with Devontae, my Eagles, my Birds on a rough skid. He's just suffered an ankle sprain injury that's keeping him out. Nothing too long term, too serious, but he's just a reliable guy. You know what you're going to get with him, and I don't think he necessarily has the ceiling to really crack into more than the middle of tier 3 necessarily because of AJ Brown and how he's there to stay. I believe, at least, but nonetheless, not to take away from Devontae. He is an awesome receiver, just not as much projection maybe as some, hence where he falls in this tier 3. But after him, we get into the rookies of this past 2023 season, guys. Leading off with Zay Flowers. I'm a big Zay Flowers guy. I really believe in him and just how he wins because of his play style, excuse me. He is met with the most cushion from defensive backs of anyone in the NFL. He is that explosive of a player and just demands that degree of respect. You know he's a big play threat any point in time, and he's got Lamar Jackson throwing to him. Just really, really, really great, I think, productive rookie year that only bodes well for the future with Zay Flowers. As Tank Dell, my guy Tank Dell, from my guy CJ Stroud, throwing him dimes, throwing him just bombs down the field. Tank Dell, man, he was on pace to be a 1,200, well over 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns potentially, but really tough season-ending injury. I'm not betting against him, though. That's the theme of this ranking with Tank here, and he is more than likely ready to just bounce right back from this setback, right back into the role that he had with CJ, make some beautiful music down in H-Town, as it looks like Rashee Rice in, I don't think K-Town, Kansas City, over there in Kansas. No, Missouri. Guys, tell me though if you're from there in the Midwest, man. My geography, not the best. Pretty sure it's Missouri, though. Nonetheless, it hasn't really mattered where Rashee Rice has played. He's put up numbers. He's put up yak. He's shown ability to make separation out of nothing in a way. Or I butchered that, but he finds a way to make something out of nothing. He just has to receive the ball, throw it to him, and I think Mahomes has understood that as the season's gone on because, look, there's really no one else. Travis Kelce, a little bit of a down year for him, but Rashee Rice, man, even if the Chiefs go out and they get somebody like an A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Worthy, whomever in the first round or the second round or the third round even if they get a guy around the same time that they, the same investment, similar levels of investment as they did in Rashee Rice, I just think Rashee Rice is showing that he's there to stay. And we have to recognize him accordingly. But really under the radar guy, which I think there's been unfair, maybe suppression of his value because of the fact, look, he wasn't a first round pick like Zay Flowers, like Jordan Addison here, who right, next to him in this tier 3, Jordan Addison, he showed a lot. But he's playing with Justin Jefferson there in Minnesota. And similar, look, he got the comp kind of coming out of USC and his obviously explosive Blitnikoff season at Pitt. Slighter frame, kind of a Devontae Smith comp, who resides near the top end of this tier. But with Jordan Addison, look, he's a great option to have. Really, when you think of how you want to construct your roster, my philosophy, it's always better to have youth and the younger production, the projection, have patience, moreover. But Jordan Addison, look, he already showed he burst on the scene this season. And I think it's going to be more or less more of the same for years to come with him. But T. Higgins, speaking of a guy who was not a first round pick and is entering free agency, does he stay in Cincinnati or does he go? I don't know. That's the $1 million question, right? But with T. Higgins here, I've got to recognize him in this tier because even if he does stay in Cincy, which it doesn't look like he is, but if he does, he's got Joe Burrow throwing to him. If he doesn't, he potentially becomes the number one guy in an offense where you maybe have Bryce Young and a whole new revamped Panthers roster. Or potentially a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels throwing to him in a Patriots totally revamped offense. Either way, look, I think T. Higgins, there's a lot of uncertainty, but we got to just embrace it. He's going to be fine, and I got to have him in this tier 4, as I do my guy JSN here. Where do you guys think JSN belongs maybe in this tier, quote unquote? Or is he higher in another tier? Or is he lower? I guess more specifically to that end. But I've got to recognize him here because he's going to only assume more of a role in the Seahawks offense moving forward. Tyler Lockett, his days are numbered. An incredible receiver who is just, look, on the wrong age of 30, right? He just is not going to factor into hindering JSN's development. I don't believe that at all. I think JSN, look, he is the type of slot, the type of possession guy with some yards after the catch ability. Do not get me wrong. He will eat up some targets, catch the ball for close to, I would project, 100 potential plus catches next season. He's going to get the yards. He's going to get potential touchdown volume. It's only DK Metcalf that's really with him in that Seattle offense moving forward. That's the mindset that we have to operate within. And speaking of which, as we transition into tier 5 here, who's at the top of tier 5 in yet another completely jumbled tier that's really kind of a interesting assembly of receivers, but nonetheless, tier 5, look, we've got DK is JSN's Seattle teammate. With DK and really Michael Pittman to lead off this tier, we know what we're going to get. They both of them into their, age 26, 27 year next year. They have shown that they're steady Eddies, 1,000+ yard guys, potential touchdown upside, but nothing that gives you any confidence that they're going to be consistently top 12 to 15 producing options. And that's why I have them in the top of tier 5 here. Am I a little bit low on them, guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But I just have them here in tier 5 because, don't get me wrong, they're solid wide receiver, mid wide receiver 2 options around the wide receiver 20 range, where I've ranked them accordingly here. But speaking of guys that are kind of in the DK athletic freak molds, a couple of rookies here in Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas Jr. 6'4" guys. Keon Coleman's a little bit thicker, a little bit more built of an athlete, came from Michigan State, Tom Izzo, as a combo guard who saw some minutes there, which is crazy in his own right. But Keon Coleman, man, it is the cliche of, 50-50 balls. It's not with Keon Coleman, man. It's 80-20 with him. And he is a darling in draft circles. Not really a dynasty darling at this point. So maybe a buy, because there's the Quentin Johnston syndrome. That is a fact. There is a Quentin Johnston syndrome here in Dynasty making the waves because, any guy that's, 6'3 plus, athletic freak of nature, oh my God, we got to avoid him. It's like the plague. Got to don't touch him at all costs. Guys, that's too reactive. Keon Coleman is his own player in his own right, completely separate from Quentin Johnston, as Brian Thomas Jr. is. Brian Thomas Jr. led the entire FBS in touchdown catches. Him and Malik Neighbors, man, just explosive guys. With Brian Thomas Jr., I think he is firmly in that wide receiver 4-5 conversation. So accordingly, I think, like Keon Coleman, he goes in the 10 to 25 range. That middle of the first, if you will. And look what happened last year with the first round rookies. Both these guys might even go before the top 20, before when Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, JSN, before all those guys went. They might go earlier in this year. But got to recognize these two rookies. The last rookies recognized in this initial top 36 rankings. There's just so much validity, in my view, with the rest of the receivers. Noah Mekegbuka, I just don't know if he's going to declare at this point. But speaking of guys we know that are in the NFL, talking about Nico Collins here. Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, man. You're connected to CJ Stroud, and man, you have shown pretty high-level production this season. And I want a guy like that on my roster. That's a guy I want to target, honestly. I want to get some more shares. I don't have any shares, honestly, of Nico Collins, but that's just being transparent, guys. I want to amass some Nico Collins here because he is producing. He's in a great situation, and I don't think things are going to change anytime soon. I think things are going to change with Drake London, though. And I think it's going to be soon because, my God, it can't get worse. It can't get worse than fantasy terrorist Arthur Smith. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts have all been affected. I think the end is near. I almost want to shed a tear or two here. But that's how things are trending. Assuming the Falcons don't win that division, assuming that they, unless they already have been eliminated, sorry if that slipped my mind, but the Falcons, they got to wipe the slate clean. That's looking like what's going to happen. And with Drake London, new quarterback, new coaching staff, just wipe the slate clean. He has shown how much he can dominate games in isolation because of obviously how bad that offense, the play calling, the structure has been as a whole. But Drake London, I really am not counting him out at this stage. Was a top 10 pick, and I really think things are going to get a lot better relatively soon. As for Terry McLaurin, I think I'm maybe a little bit higher than many on Terry McLaurin here, T-Mac. But with the Commanders, RIP Sam Howell there at the quarterback position, although he's got a chance to make a statement here in the last week, that's just not relevant. The Commanders, Josh Harris, Magic Johnson ownership, they're going to take a swing. That is what they will do. They will draft a quarterback. The Commanders will. Get a new quarterback. He gets a Drake May, Caleb Williams potentially thrown to him. I think Terry McLaurin, we see a resurgence in production, finding the end zone, getting more targets, more catches, just I think Terry McLaurin, really think he's going to be able to bounce back in rankings, in value, in dynasty circles in general in the near future. With Debo, another 28-year-old rounding out tier 5 here, guys. With Debo, shout out. Shout out my guy, South Carolina Gamecock legend there. As much as it pains me as an Eagles fan. But allegiance aside, with Debo, man, we know he's a double-digit touchdown guy. We know he, in that 49ers, Kyle Shanahan offense, he is a focal point. He's a vital piece of that offense. And man, do I want stock. It's pretty simple as, guys. Debo rounding out tier 5 here. Lastly, in tier 6, we got 6 guys here. A good, decent mix who's in this tier. But first, we got George Pickens. And then Jaden Reed, kind of the younger guard. Look, with Pickens, among one or two in the entire league in yards per catch, just totally unreal explosiveness that I don't think is necessarily repeatable. Look, we saw a 4-catch, 195, 2-touchdown game. That's just not repeatable, guys. That's not repeatable. He's got 5 touchdowns, give or take, on the year, and last a crazy game. He's just around potentially fighting a 1,000-yard season. I'm being too harsh. I know I'm being a little bit too harsh on George Pickens here, but in the Pittsburgh offense, I don't see necessarily that situation improving all that much in the near future. I just don't. And let me know where you guys rank Pickens. It's a weird one to rank. Just doesn't really get the volume, and I don't think he will too soon enough to affect the rankings. But Jaden Reed, really solid rookie season on his part, and he does have a pretty good situation with LaFleur, with Jordan Love, man, and that Green Bay offense. It's just a little bit murky in terms of opportunity because, man, Green Bay, they have a golden age of weapons with Jaden Reed, Wicks, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, tight end, Tucker Kraft emerging, Luke Musgrave still. Just a lot of cooks in the kitchen in Green Bay, and I can't rank him necessarily any higher at this stage with Jaden Reed. We'll see. I think they're, with next season, when by the time 2024 rolls around, and we'll maybe hear about in potential offseason reports who really maybe establishes themselves in year 2, really with Jordan Love at the helm. But don't get me wrong, fan of Jaden Reed, as I am Mike Evans, as we all should be. The dude's on a Hall of Fame pace, one of one pace, frankly, with this 1,000-yard season after 1,000-yard seasons, man. Leading 13 touchdowns, leading the NFL in touchdowns this year. The guy's a machine. Guy's a machine. As Stephon Diggs has been, as Devontae Adams has been, as Amari Cooper has been, but has been being past tense. You got to be proactive in these rankings. You got to kind of forecast and predict. And look, maybe I'm a bit harsh with the idea of a 30-plus cliff. Some call me, maybe I'm a Leo DiCaprio here with, he's got the 25 and under rule. If you know, you know. I've got the 30 and over rule where I can't really rank, with the exception of maybe Tyreek. I just can't rank these guys higher than tier 6 because we're playing Dynasty. Are they still going to have a short-term impact in 2024? Absolutely they could. Absolutely. But this ranking isn't just for the next 12 months, guys. You have to anticipate. You have to be proactive. That's the name of the game here. And that's what I've done with these top 36 Dynasty wide receiver rankings, guys. Let me know my hits, my misses, what you think I did wrong, what the hell I might have gotten wrong, every which way in these 6 tiers. But I've done my best, guys. We're on the road to 100. If you enjoyed the content, if I got even one player right in a tier or ranking spot, like, comment. Support goes so far. Again, I cannot thank you enough for all the support you've shown already, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hope your team gets into the playoffs or gets the draft pick you want. I'll see you soon. Peace.